When my friends and I rented a beach house in Florida, I never could have expected how things would have turned out. It was the four of us in a cramped car driving down there. The house was directly on the beach. It was on this road that had the bay in front of the house across the street, and then in the backyard was literally the beach. There were some huge houses on this road and some smaller, more normal-looking ones. This was one of the more modest-looking ones. It had 4 bedrooms, so a bedroom for each of us. The houses were spaced out on this road, creating a sense of privacy, and the whole time we were unloading the car, out front not a single car passed by on this road. The interior of the house was decent. It wasn't spectacular, but it was modest clean, and the owners were really pushing a beach theme with the wall decor. I guess it would make sense considering the location. There was even a decorative surfboard in one corner of the living room behind the TV. The living room looked out to the back deck, which then looked out to the beach. That view was breathtaking. The deck wasn't elevated very high off the ground. It was just 2 steps down and onto the sand. We all claimed our bedrooms. I managed to get one of the rooms with a view of the beach. First thing we did after settling in was, of course, walking outside and laying on the beach. We all went in the water at one point and then played football. We were definitely on the beach for a few hours. We seemed to be the only ones on the beach. Apart from this older-looking couple way down the beach afterwards, we went out to eat and then started bar hopping in the town area. When we Ubered back, it was dark out. We went outside on the beach to around and play late-night football. While we were kind of drunk, as I was running to grab the ball after missing a catch, I noticed something in the water. The moon reflecting on the ocean was the only reason I could see it. I said, "What the is that?" out loud, and then realized it was a person standing in the water about waist deep. My friends looked over and said they saw it too. It was only a little weird because of the time. It was like past midnight. But hey, if a local wants to go for a midnight swim, that's their business. We then went to sit on the deck and drank beers for a while until we got tired, and one by one, everyone started going inside to go to sleep. My friend John and I were the last ones out there. I had been every once in a while glancing in the direction I saw that person before, in the water, just out of curiosity, and so eventually when I shot a glance in that direction, I spotted someone standing on the beach. They appeared to be just standing there facing us. It was kind of creepy, maybe a neighbor. I didn't want to be rude, but I wondered if it was the same person. We tried to ignore it. But John was facing that person, and after a while he said they were still just standing there facing us. I stood up and looked over and saw he was right. I yelled out, "Is everything okay?" John asked, "Why as you do that?" I honestly didn't know what I was expecting. They didn't even reply anything, though. We were officially creeped out, so we went inside. The other 2, Travis and Liam, were already in their room, was probably knocked out from drinking. So John and I decided to just call it a night, too, so that we could have a full day tomorrow. If I had to guess, it was 12:30 to 1 a.m., which was honestly on the earlier side. But we were all burnt out from the long day. I went to my room after brushing my teeth. The unsettling atmosphere intensified as I peered out the window, hoping to get a glimpse of the ocean before retiring for the night. To my horror, I saw that someone had materialized on the back deck, staring directly at my window, as if they were trying to communicate with me. The figure of the person appeared to be male. Considering the slightly larger frame, it was undoubtedly the same person. From before I called John's name, he didn't reply, so I ran to his room and banged on his door, telling him to come out. He came out pretty quickly, and I led him to my window to look outside. But now the person was gone. I swore to him that the person from earlier was just standing as still as before, right in front of our deck. He believed me. We weren't about to go outside and look around, though I took one more look to make sure that they were still gone, and then I shut the blind to the bedroom window. But as I lay awake in bed, rolling from side to side trying to sleep, I just couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still outside. Who was that person? Why were they creeping around? My thoughts were interrupted by the sickening sound of a fist knocking on the bedroom window. I felt like my insides just shriveled up and my heart completely dropped out of my body. I laid silent and frozen moments later. Another light set of knocks on the glass. I didn't dare lift the blind, though I couldn't gather the courage to. I almost yelled, "Who is it?" But I stopped myself instead. I ran out to the living room, screaming for everyone to wake up. We looked out onto the beach and didn't see anyone. We also checked the front and sides of the house. No one John and I had to explain to the other two what they missed when they fell asleep. We kept the backyard lights on. That night, the next day, John and I went to the two nearest neighbors and asked them if they had also experienced someone knocking on their windows or doors. We learned about a neighbor's terrifying experience a week ago from him. Someone came pounding on his door in the middle of the night, and when he asked who it was, they wouldn't answer. They just kept knocking, making him stay inside. I don't know if this is related, but if it is, it makes the whole thing that much scarier. That day, we went beach hopping, explored some nearby towns, and hit some bars. Nothing happened that night, and we left the following day. Early 20s, we went on a handful of camping trips around Colorado. This happened, I believe, when I was 22, and he was 23, and it happened in Uro Forest. It was my first time camping there. Not Cody's, though. It was in the middle of the week. Our jobs allowed us to have off days in the middle of the week, and we'd often go in our campouts then to avoid traffic and crowds. I always let Cody take charge on these trips. He's the Eagle Scout, not me. We parked by a picnic area, and we set foot into the woods from there. After about 15 minutes of hiking deeper into the woods, we found a good spot to set up camp. A good spot meaning a big enough clearing to fit 2 tents, the portable stove, and a campfire. We unloaded all of our belongings and put up our tents first. Cody always manages to pitch a tent in a matter of minutes, while I always take well over 20. After that, we built a fire circle with stones and collected sticks and wood. I suppose we cheat a little bit because he brought fire starter and a lighter, but oh well, by the time the sun was setting, we had the fire going and Cody was grilling steak and burgers. One thing about Cody is he always went all out with the food on these trips, and he's a really good cook. So I always trusted him with feeding us. Of course, we had our bear spray in case the smell of the food would attract a black bear, which Cody always said was very unlikely. He always says the real thing you got to worry about in the middle of the woods is other people. As we ate our steak and burgers, we cracked open some beers and had some classic rock playing on the speaker. If you've never been camping, you don't understand how good of a vibe moments like this are in the wilderness with a friend or family member, and some beers reminiscing about good times and vibing to music as it got dark. We started playing card games on this little folding platform table we brought specifically for cards. After playing more traditional card games, we started playing Uno, and this was when we heard something out in the woods. I paused the song on my phone so that the speaker would go silent. It was clear now. We heard a person humming and footsteps from beyond the trees in the pitch blackness of the forest. I was a little unsettled, and I could tell that Cody was too. We returned to playing cards with the music turned down low when, out of nowhere, a large stick appeared. Cody had warned me that the sounds were disturbing, but by the time I located the flashlight, they had gone. I asked Cody whether I should be worried, and he said that it was definitely unusual for someone else to be so far into the woods, let alone creepily walking past a campsite while the campfire was humming loudly. Landing in the middle of our campsite made us both jump out of our skin. It didn't fall from a tree. This thing was thrown at us by someone. Cody started yelling something along the lines of, "Whoever's out there messing with us, get a life and off." And then footsteps could be heard once again in the distance. They were walking away from us. I said we should pack up camp and move somewhere else. He said absolutely not in the dark. We both had bee spray, and he advised to just keep it next to me in my tent when we go to sleep. It was the closest thing to range self-defense weapons. We kept hearing sounds like tree branches cracking in the distance, sounds that you would never expect an animal to be making. Someone was out there. Maybe multiple people, that much was clear. We had to go to sleep eventually. So we agreed that maybe we should take turns staying up to keep watch to make sure that no one comes to our campsite and steals anything, or worse. Cody agreed to take first watch. He said he'd stay up and read his book, so I crawled into my tent and then my sleeping bag and went to sleep, waking up in the middle of the night. While camping is normal, you're in a cold, outdoor environment and an uncomfortable sleeping bag. Any number of things could wake you up. I didn't yet know what woke me up. I was still in a fog. My brain didn't feel fully woken up yet. I looked up and saw a head peering into my tent. It looked like Cody. I rubbed my eyes, but the darkness was really making it hard for me to see his face. I asked Cody if it was my turn to keep watch, and he said, "Groggy, is it my turn?" I stared at the head peering down at me in my sleeping bag, becoming more alert with each passing second. Then I heard the tent zipper zip up, and his head vanished. I lay back down in my sleeping bag for a second, but then I had an epiphany, stood up straight, and listened as the feet retreated. "Cody," I said. That he didn't respond. I peeked out of my tent to view the campground, but the fire was out and Cody wasn't there. I walked over to Cody's tent, which was zipped up, and I opened it to find him sound asleep in his sleeping bag. It is rather uncomfortable. I was almost paralyzed with fear when I realized what was happening, so I roused him from his slumber and informed him that someone was at the campsite. It took him a moment to gather his thoughts, but he eventually retrieved his bear spray and claimed he must have dozed off while reading. He then suggested that I sleep in the tent with him tonight, but I would need my sleeping bag for that. As I sprinted back to my tent to get my sleeping bag, he accompanied me outside the tent and kept watch. I heard that goddamn humming again from outside. I grabbed it, and Cody whispered at me to hurry up. I said, "You hear that too?" He said yes. We both got back in his tent and zipped it up with our cans of bear spray by our sides. I tell you, in those moments, I wanted nothing more than for a bear to come and save the day. The hours dragged on, as I stayed up while Cody slept after 3 long, horrible hours. I woke him up and we switched when Cody woke me up. It was almost dawn, there was light outside. So we packed everything up, and by the time we were done, there was plenty of light to hike back to the car, while we could have driven somewhere else and had another night of camping elsewhere. Neither of us were feeling it anymore. This was a haunting experience, and I think we both just wanted to be in the safe. I felt like I was in a nightmare when I saw the figure's head peering into my tent from the darkness, as if someone were haunting our campground. Maybe camping isn't for me ever again.